We are live. Hi, and welcome to Real Adult Wisdom. I am your host, Becky Shaffer, and I have with me my good friend, Leslie Brooks. And today we are going to discuss setting boundaries like a badass, which, Leslie, you are doing a series of workshops coming up, setting boundaries like a badass, which I absolutely love that. Which one is here in Asheville on August 21st. Which we will post and I will have on my write up underneath this podcast when the show is over. But you also have one online July 19th, which I will also post, and we will have a link to that as well, because boundaries are hard, as I've been learning. Leslie is an expert in boundaries. I am not. I do the communication and transition. So this is why we get together, because they all kind of correspond together like pieces of a puzzle.
I love the work I do, and it is something that gave me my life back, and is one of the corner pieces of making sure that you stay in your yard and you protect your peace in your yard. So I love what I do, but I hear also a little birdie tells me that you have something in the hopper as well.
I do. I am writing my first book. I'm
fangirling. I'm totally fangirling.
Well, I have a dear friend who really encouraged me. I do a ton of writing, as you know, blogging, and then my podcast. And we were just talking one day, and all of a sudden this stuff just started coming out. And I sat down and I started writing, and I'm not really going to say the title yet. But yeah, I've got an introduction and 2 chapters done so far. So it's in the making, and hopefully by the end of summer, here in the next couple of months, we have that out and published.
That's so exciting.
I know. I'm so excited.
So exciting.
I get to put my nerd brain into writing.
Got it.
Got it. And yes, I'm very excited about that. So yes, thank you. So we're just gonna jump right in on these boundaries. And Leslie, I'm just going to let you take the lead on this, because you're just an amazing person that I love having on my show. But we're going to go into feel it first, which, oh my gosh, do we?
Yeah. And then a lot of times we're in a space where we feel it and we don't act on it, which leads to one day we just explode. So it is really important to start to get these things on paper early while it's not going on. Not in the moment. In the moment is not the time. When is the time to act? Is like here, talking with a friend, like, how do I want to show up differently? But first you have to feel those moments that you have to show up for. You have to have a plan for those moments. So you could, because usually when we feel it, what we're feeling is our body shifting in to fight or flight. And that is not the time for us to be making decisions on how we want to show up in the world.
Because those people will fly.
Yes. Or they will. And all that is like, we don't want you to have an interaction that you later regret.
Correct.
And when we are in that fight or flight response, we're not in the part of our brain that makes the highest reasoning, the best decisions. And so we want to make a plan for it and have it written out and talked about and talked with a good friend and get into the feel of it and feel what it looks like, feel in our body, the tightness in the chest and the pit in the stomach, or I call it the bad butterflies that come up when someone, I can remember a time where someone insulted me over something, and I remember just going and just being shocked. That is not going to be the time I'm going to show up and make a decision on how I want to show up differently.
Yes.
And so it's going into those moments where I call it, this is what I've recently started calling it in Badass Boundaries or Badass Unleashed experience, is it's a full body fuck no. Like, get in a moment where it's a full body fuck no. Like, take a moment that you just were like, it was a hell no from the moment, and I maybe didn't listen to it, or in that full body fuck no, I may have overreacted, but I want that moment back.
Right.
And so it's one of those, like, tracking. What did my body tell me when it was a full body fuck no? Like, what is said in my body? What language is my body using in sensations? So, like, you would probably have had examples of that. What comes up for you in that?
Oh gosh, when I left my job. So I was in my 19th year of teaching, and our school system was going through a shuffle. So I got moved to this new building. And right away, that principal of that building was like, I didn't want you here. And it wasn't just to me, it was to me and the other person that was moving to this building. And I looked at the guy and I'm like, well, I don't want to be here either. That was my first response. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I did, because I'm like, well, hell no, you're not going to talk to me like this. Like,
yeah, but so my question is what did that feel like in your body? Take that moment.
It felt horrible.
Like, give me a sensation. How did you know it was no?
Like, I had this pit in my stomach, and it felt horrible. And so, of course, now I have to move to this building with a new staff after I've been in my old one for 12 years, where I did everything, coaching, Special Olympics, like all kinds of stuff. And now I got to move to a whole different building, a whole different grade, a whole different subject, with a guy that doesn't want me in there because I was pawned on him because of the failed levy. For 2 years, it was the worst bullying I've ever seen anyone do to a staff. And it wasn't just me. He was doing it to others as well. But I got to the point where I was like, fuck no, I'm not doing this. And I literally resigned. I had a house and 2 kids at home, and I resigned from my career job. But it led me to many other things.
Absolutely.
Which we'll probably get to.
Yeah. And that's it. It's like, what is the shift though? And I think it's interesting because what you're speaking of is moving from a prey response, like a jackrabbit response, where I'm like, I'm not going to engage, into a healthy predator response, which is not one moment more.
Yeah, but I did have to engage a little bit. Like I had to continue showing evidence of my lessons, of my teaching. For 19 years, I was always accomplished. And then all of a sudden, this guy wants to call me in his office, literally put his hands behind his head like, I'm surprised you've been accomplished all these years, and I don't want your kind here. And I'm like, what is my kind? What, like, I'm a single mom? Like, what is my kind? And he couldn't answer it. And that's how he intimidated staff. And I'm not sure, he just had this power thing that he wanted over staff. And it was always the women that he did this to. But once I started driving to work crying and having anxiety attacks, I knew I had to somehow remove myself from that situation. I just didn't know how. But somehow the universe sent me this amazing life coach that I ended up talking to. And I'm like, I'm going to go back to school and get my therapy certification. She's like, Becky, you got 2 masters and 19 years of teaching. Like, go be a life coach. Like, go do that. I'm like, I never thought about that. And that's like how I got introduced to this whole amazing world of life coaching I've been doing for the last 7 years.
Love that. And if you're that person right now that is crying going to work, dreading seeing somebody, dreading seeing family that hurt your feelings all the time, know that no moment is wasted. And like Becky sharing, like, there was such goodness that came out of that. And so fret not, on the other side of that is a lot of joy, but the only way out of that dynamic is through it.
A lot of bumpy roads.
Roads. Yeah.
A lot of nights of like, oh gosh, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to do this? But it all came together. But I also think that was a brave thing. Like, I'm leaving like 19 years of seniority, retirement. Like, it was not an easy choice. And, you have other teachers like, but what about your retirement? What about this? I'm thinking like, what about my health? What about me?
Yeah.
And so I think that's where, a lot of people, when you're going through situations, you got to think about we live one life. What is going to make you happy? Is it really going to be the money at the end of the day? Or is it going to be you being true to yourself? And I really had to go through that. And it was hard. It was a hard process. And that's really where I dug deep into my writing and where I fell in love actually with anchors, because I'm like, I'm not going to let an anchor hold me down. my anchor is going to be freeing.
I call those moments like what you're talking about, the but what about me moment. I think we all can self-abandon to a point where we have this but what about me moment. And that's what I'm hearing out of what you went through is like her but what about me moment led to such a spin in her life that put her on the trajectory that she needed to go.
I wouldn't be sitting here today with
and neither
you.
would I.
Right.
Right.
Like, I really seriously, I wouldn't be. There's so many experiences that have happened, but that'll probably come in of these other boundaries that we're going to talk about that actually make a life amazing. I think people are scared to make that first step, but it's like once you make that first step, there are so many steps. Even if you fall in a pothole here and there are so many steps you will get to moving forward after you brush yourself off. It's not easy, but there's just, it's rewarding. Once you get there, you're like, okay, I'm a badass. I did that. And I said, fuck no.
Yeah.
I love cussing on my podcast.
Me too. I love cussing. All right. Yeah. And so but the meat and potatoes of boundary setting, like it just moving from the step of feeling it actually is into owning what a boundary actually is. Like this was the thing that moved the needle the most for me is understanding that I'm only in control of what I think, say, or do. If I am trying to control what someone else thinks, says, or does, that's a question that I have to ask myself. So a lot of times when in the second step of this boundary setting is owning what is actually yours. Like, am I behaving in a way that I'm manipulating someone into doing something else? Or am I owning what I'm willing to move myself away from because it's hurting me? Like, that's where I think is so great. You had another step in that story, and I don't want to miss it because I think it's deeply impactful, is that you had another experience later.
I did.
That you saved yourself faster. That's it. Like, that's the name of the game. Can you just share like that trajectory? Do you mind? Because I really think it's impactful.
No, I think leaving that made me less fearful of leaving other things or making big moves in my life. So because of that situation, I mean, I have to kind of fill in just a tiny bit. Because of that situation, I ended up becoming a life coach, starting my own business. But then I also went and got my gifted endorsement. So I was able to work with gifted kids. So I helped open up a gifted school. And then I helped open up this online school that we did working with kids. But in that online school, so all this led to that because of that situation. But these were all positives, I want to say. In that online school, unfortunately, because of being an inner city in Columbus, Ohio, I was put in this office that was nothing but black mold. So instead of them fixing the problem, they just came in and put a new ceiling in on top of the black mold. And I got extremely sick. I mean, extremely sick. It was coming out of my skin. It was, sorry, that's not supposed to happen because I have a bark collar on her. I'm at a boundary with her on barking. She does it in my podcast. It drives one of my friends crazy. She's like, you got to, I know. But it's called Real Adult Wisdom, and I have dogs. So that office area was making me sick. And so at the same time, I had a job offer here in Asheville. And I'm like, you know what? I think it's time to make a move. I am so sick here. This is not healthy for me. My body had put on like literally 46 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I was so inflamed.
Yeah.
I had gotten diagnosed with lupus, which they were contributing it to the black mold. And here I am, this very healthy person, and I was becoming unhealthy very fast because of that. And when I got offered the job here, I was becoming an empty nester. I'm like, why the hell not? Why not? I can get out of this. And of course, people again, but you've been in Ohio for 26 years teaching. And I'm like, I don't care. I can't do 9 more years of this to retire. Like, I am so unhealthy right now. And it allowed me to take this new offer and move to a whole new state, AIG specialist, like a new position. And again, it's been another amazing stepping stone in my life.
And the thing that is the win out of that I think is so impactful is you've got a job that she was in, she moved out of into another thing. And then the second time you were in it, She got herself out faster.
I did.
And that's the work, is it's to turn and say, okay, I know that I can only control me. And what did you do? You controlled yourself. You got out of the situation. And look, now you get to sit with me.
I do. And I get to go on these amazing hikes and waterfalls.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And I actually landed in one of the best schools in this county. Like everything just, it just takes some patience and hard work. And sometimes I know we all want to quit. Because when you are setting those boundaries and you are listening to yourself, that fear takes over. And we sometimes will listen to fear versus listening to what we really want to do.
Yeah. And just to cut straight through to the body talk about fear, even if your body, like say you're in a room that is 72 degrees and it drops down to 30, there's actually literally a fear response. Like the only response initially to change is fear. Like, and so I want to say, if you're afraid of making that move, it's normal. And a lot of times we need a Becky, a me to handhold, so you don't feel so damn alone when you're trying to make such a fearful move, because it's new and it's different and it requires knowing what is in your lane. Because how many of us, just be honest, how many of us are so damn tired because we're in everybody else's lane? If you're like a car driving on one lane and you go in point A to B and staying in your lane, you're going to have a lot more gas in your tank at the end of the day. But if you're driving across an 8-lane highway back and forth, you're going to be tired because you're not in your lane, because you can't truly control anything. But we think we can. And so and that's why understanding what's in your lane, you're responsible for what you think, say, and do. You're not responsible to change what someone else does. And that requires you actually asking yourself in an unapologetic way how you want to show up in the world. And so like kind of the next step of everything is asking your unapologetic self, grounding in who you want to be, not who you've told to be.
Right.
And especially with women, I'm going to go here for a second, especially with women, we're taught to be small, quiet, smiling. And I'm sorry, I'm the opposite of that most days.
I am too.
Yeah. I'm kind of grumpy and I'm tired and I'm pissed off. And I try really hard, but that's just that I'm human. And so when we ask our unapologetic self what we want to do with this trigger, how we want to motivate ourselves in a way, we have to be grounded to answer that question. That's why we do this work together with you and me. Like how would you want to show up different in the world? If you could play this out almost like a story, how do you want to look as the star of your own book? Like that. I mean, at the end of the day, that's it. Like
a motivator.
Yeah. It's a motivator to show up in the world in a way that feels good to you
and helps others.
Absolutely.
So like anybody can be stuck at any time, but it's your choice to get unstuck.
Yeah, absolutely. And just asking again, this is all about having interactions that you don't later are sad for, that you regret. We want you to show up in a way that's unapologetic. Like, I have thought this out and I showed up this way and I feel really good about it.
Yeah. Cause I personally had beat myself up a little bit because I'm like, God, I left my retirement a little bit. You know, I made some choices that I had to make financially. And I'm like, oh gosh. But you know what? At the end of the day, I am happy and healthy. And I have to believe that financially with retirement, it will all work itself out.
Yeah. And like the case of where I was offended by, I mean, it was a point blank saying something very condescending about a necklace I was wearing. It was a very painful moment. It was my husband's necklace, or my husband's mother's necklace. And the woman looked at me and just said, "You'll never fill that necklace." And what? I know the hurt. And I go back into that moment, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't show up in a way that I wanted to. In fact, I slinked off. I went to my car. I sobbed. I don't remember the drive home. I was so hurt. But if I asked myself how I would have wanted to show up, I would have walked over and I would have been like, say that slower to me and taste the words coming out of your mouth. Did that feel good to you? Because it hurt me.
Right.
And because I don't want to be mean, but I want you, it's a consequence. That's ultimately we're trying to hold them in the moment. So it's just the idea of showing up in a way that you want to. And Becky, you would maybe not respond that way. And neither of it is bad. It's just unique to who we are.
I probably would have told him to F off.
Oh yeah. See, that would have been better than what I did. Like I just cried.
I'm like, who do you think you are?
Oh, I just cried.
That probably isn't a good response.
No, it wasn't, but it would have felt good.
So I wear my brother's thumbprint.
Mm.
So if somebody says something, I'd be like, this is my brother. He passed away of cancer.
Mm.
You might want to be really careful in what you say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's still an open wound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
because of course it should be. Like, that's reality. Like, yeah.
Be like, I don't want to feel this right now. I still
Yeah.
have kids to raise and I still have this to do. Like, who are you?
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
I think they were jealous. They wanted your necklace.
Maybe, who knows? I would, and that's where I'm going to stay in my lane and stop making stories, because I'd make myself crazy trying to figure out why someone did that to me. So, or why someone would say that.
And it's every day we're all facing something new,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's at work, whether it's a stranger, whether it's the car beside you, whether it's somebody flipping you off because you accidentally pulled out in front of them. I mean, we all face this stuff every day as a human being,
Mm-hmm.
but all this falls under boundaries.
Yep. And so after we have an idea of how we want to show up in the world, when we are there to show up, we don't have conversations with people when we're not grounded.
Right.
Like, if you feel like you want to throat punch them or you want to cry and run from the room, then it's okay to look and say, it doesn't feel good right now to have this conversation.
Right. Let's take a pause.
Like, most things we can take a pause and come back to it. For people who have anxious attachments, like they get nervous, or you have a partner that may be a nervous, or you have friends that may be nervous about those interactions, always plan a time to come back. That is like the pro tip of boundary setting. Like, I am a very anxious attachment. If my husband is to walk out of an argument, which is not his way, but let's just say he does, it would always be, I just need a moment to know when he's going to come back into the conversation, because then you're not leaving somebody hanging. That's being communicative. That's allowing someone's nervous system to calm and yours to calm at the same time, so we can stay grounded in our interactions.
Yeah. Like, let's pause and pick this up.
Yeah.
This evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Not every moment that you're pissed off, especially not the moment you're pissed off, is the time to interact with people. We go to we don't process our anger with the person who pissed us off.
Right.
We go to our friend, we go to our therapist, we go to our coach, and we figure out what we are angry about and what boundary we need to set, because let's face it, anger is a sign my boundary's been crossed.
And did they really make you angry, or did they trigger something that you're already angry about?
Yep.
So that's also where the pause is really important. And so you can figure out, okay, why did we just get into this? Is it him or was it me?
Yeah.
Did I show up wrong in this? Am I the one that needs to come back and be apologetic from that situation?
And I'm going to challenge one word, just because that's my word. Wrong. Did I show up wrong? It's not right or wrong. We show up like it's 1 to 10, 1 being the worst version of ourselves, 10 being the most loving and untriggered version of us. And if we show up in the lesser numbers, it doesn't mean we're wrong. It just means we were more triggered and we have something to learn in grounding. It's no shame. Like, we can't do right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's just more myself and less myself.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So then after that, once we are there, boundaries, once we're grounded, the big thing is boundaries don't exist without a consequence.
Right.
And there are good and bad consequences. I mean, like, she brought up that point. It was so good. There are good and bad consequences. And so if someone is crossing your boundary, though, it's about what you're going to do about it. It's just like Becky removed herself from the job and wound up here sitting with us today. Like, that was because that's what she decided to do. because as a consequence for something that was less than you deserved.
And I want to add something in there from that job. So 1 year exactly after I resigned from that job, and because I'm reading my notes right now, and here I had put willing to act in alignment with my worth, even if it's uncomfortable. What I did to this, which for some reason I'm just remembering because we're talking about this.
Yeah, I love it.
I actually wrote a letter to the Board of Education, and I sent it to the Board of Education and the superintendent. And I wrote about my experience at that school for those 2 years and everything I went through, and I bullet pointed everything. And then I signed it. And that was me finally letting that anchor go that was holding me down. And they actually did an investigation into, and they actually went in and started questioning the other teachers on how he was treating them. And they actually put him on a probation. I mean, he's still there. I don't know how, but somebody actually listened. But whether they listened or not, for me writing that letter, it's like, you know what? My worth is better than being there and being treated that way. And it took a lot. I'm just a writer in general, but after 1 year, I literally sat down and I wrote a letter.
And that can be, because trauma, which is what I work with, trauma is an unplayed out fight or flight response. What you did was you took a fight or flight response that was hanging open and you closed it by showing up in a healthy predator response. Like, there it is, people. This is why we do these things. It's standing up for ourselves is actually how the body is first designed to deal with threat. It's not the 500th time. And that's what I will say is, like, when you show up for yourself, and that's when you'll see a lot of people with like neck pain, jaw pain, especially the front of the neck and the eye muscles and the jaw. Those are all your speaking and social engagement muscles. Every time that you didn't speak up, it traps energy, and it traps energy, and it traps energy in all those moments. And you wrote that letter, and you probably let go of so much of that energy out of that.
It was like getting universal Botox.
Yeah.
It was like all these things just went away.
I'm gonna have to get me some of that.
I know, right? Just let it go.
Oh, that's amazing. But there it is. I mean, like, that is how the human body is made for social engagement. It's made for empathetic witness. So I speak up and say, friend, I'm hurting, which helps trauma. And or friend, you're hurting me. And the friend hears you and then moves, because we're hardwired to care about each other.
And you can tell if someone's going through like a hard time and carrying all that stress, and you can tell someone who's not. My body has taken a 360 since I've moved here. I'm not a math person, but you know,
I think it's 180.
It is. I think I went around a couple times.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right. Fair. That makes sense.
I'm just going to add that in there now.
I love that, because that's true.
Because I got here and I had to adjust to that too. You know, being an empty nest or something new, but I ended up losing all that weight. I ended up just becoming at peace, and I just love what I do and where I'm at.
Yeah. You spoke to worth. You were in alignment with your worth.
Yes.
And I wanted to speak to that really quick. If you're struggling to see your worth in order to stand up, my suggestion, and this is where my daughter saved me in so many ways, is sometimes it's easier to put somebody else in that place. Like, if you wouldn't accept it for yourself, you wouldn't accept it for your kid, you wouldn't accept it for your auntie, you wouldn't accept it for your mom, you wouldn't accept it for your friend. Don't you dare accept it for yourself.
Right.
And so if you're struggling with that piece, please know that sometimes mentally just putting someone else in there, our boundaries really come out if we can't feel them.
And I think when I did resign from that job, having 2 small kids at home, it's like, I can't come home like this because I wasn't being a good mom either.
Amen. Yeah.
Because it when you're going through this kind of stuff, it doesn't allow you to show up for the people that you have to show up for, you know, and I was not showing up for my kids for sure.
And I used to say, this is where like my work evolves as people like you change how I see the world. It used to be like, it's not me it's not me first, it's me too, like me as well. And actually I've come to, it's mamas first. Our job as moms is to co-regulate our children and to provide empathy so that they don't carry this fight or flight response. And if we're not regulated, we can't do what we are supposed to do as mothers. And
they
so
are watching us like hawks.
They are. It's mamas first. It has to be. So, and yeah, I mean, it just has to be.
And if you're not a mom, then you got to put yourself first.
Yeah, you do. You are your own job.
If you don't put yourself first, even being a mom, then you're not going to be there for your kids either. So I don't know. Those are all very good.
Yeah, I thought so.
I love boundaries.
You really should have a podcast.
I should. What the hell are we on?
I think I'm funny.
You kind of are. So I have some final thoughts here. So as I talk about boundaries, because I think you're the expert here, but I'm just going to go in here. So a lot of people think when they're setting boundaries, they're actually building walls. But if you're setting a boundary, you're not really building a wall. The wall could be that other person's because they're looking at it as a negative. And I just want to throw that in there because you're not just always setting boundaries for yourself. You're at times setting boundaries to other people. Like I set a boundary, like, you're not going to treat me this way. And not that he cared. Okay. But I still set a boundary. Like I had to get the union and stuff involved. So by doing that, I'm setting a boundary a little bit by you're not going to treat me this way. But it's not building a wall. It's just, again, setting your worth for sure. But I have this thing where I talk about building bridges to your peace. And that's all I've been doing is building bridges to my peace. And, I'm here today, but this may not be my landing spot, but it's, it's where I'm at today. And who knows, I could meet the love of my life and end up somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, every time you feel, own, ask, check, and back it up, you're reclaiming your power. And I feel like I reclaimed my power. We can reclaim our power multiple times throughout our life. I don't think people sometimes feel comfortable reclaiming their power.
Yep. And I think at times what you're seeing is, especially with women, because that's what I study biologically, with women, we are really trained out of our healthy predator response. And so when we show up and we shift into action of stopping people, it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable.
It is.
And necessary for balance.
It is.
Absolutely necessary.
And everyone deserves to be safe in their own life, and you deserve to feel safe, and you also deserve to feel happy at the job you're going to or the life that you're living, because this is like, I'm not going to give my age, but it goes so fast. God, it goes so fast.
Yeah, it sure does.
I've already raised kids.
Yeah. Tell me what that's like to be on the other side.
I'll tell you, it was really, really hard at first.
Oh my gosh.
It was so hard at first. Because it's like you want all that chaos and craziness back for a hot minute.
You do?
For a hot minute.
Okay,
Did you hear me?
A hot minute. Okay, hot minute.
And then it turned into like, holy shit, I can go on vacation. I can travel. I can do this.
You can take up space in your world.
Oh, I can go do things, and it's not costing me triple. Well, except now I get a dog sitter.
Yeah.
They're like kids, but it's been freeing. And I'll tell you what I love more about it now that I've moved away. Instead of my kids just coming over for dinner and then leaving and I don't see them for another week, when they come here, they're here for a week, which 2 weeks they'll be here. But we have quality time.
Love that.
It's like 24/7 of quality time.
Yeah.
And that quality time living here is a better time or a better experience I have with my kids. And if I was still in Columbus and they were just stopping by for dinner or to steal groceries out of my pantry.
True. No.
Or to do their laundry.
Yeah.
Now
Becky's
it's like we go, I know, seriously. It really was. Or Becky's laundromat.
That's right. Yeah.
Or mom's wallet.
Yeah.
And
I think those moments are so important for you to touch back into your kids, because at the end of the day, we want and this is true of everybody, you want to hang out with people or reconnect with people who remind us who we are when we forget. We forget our divinity and our power, and then we remember it. We forget and we remember. We forget and we remember. And the more we keep around people who remind us, like our mama, like we navigate the world with our power and we don't lose sight of it.
Right. And I think we bring in people to our energy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
That's how we met.
Yeah, absolutely.
We met at your birthday party.
I had a great time. I love to karaoke. Just saying.
That's literally where I met you.
I love karaoke.
And our energy was like, hey,
you want to talk about boundaries? Okay.
Yeah, quit drinking and get off of me. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm telling. No.
Kidding. We're kidding. Well, that's it. You got anything else to say?
No, I don't. Except for to say just being a badass is literally just showing up for yourself. It's actually just, it's being honest. It's being the same on the outside with your words as you feel on the inside. Like, how tired are we all of being like, oh, well, okay, well, maybe I don't have to deal with them again. What if you didn't have to do that? How would life be different for you?
It's freeing.
Yeah.
It is freeing.
Yeah.
Coming from experience.
Yeah.
It's freeing. So remember, you deserve to be safe in your own life. You deserve to form your life and walk your journey the way that you choose to. Take deep breaths, take pauses, set your boundaries, listen to all the rest of the podcast, join Leslie's workshop online, July 19th. It'll be hooked below there. We really appreciate everyone who has tuned in. If you have questions, feel free to, you can message either one of us. Leslie's she's tagged on this as well. Or you can throw them down in the thing. We can get a chat going.
Yeah. Favorite conversation ever.
Yes, for sure. All right. Thank you for listening to Real Adult Wisdom with Leslie and Becky. Yay.